Good morning, Pickswise Nation. Merry Christmas Eve. I am Alex Glaze, joined by Jared Smith and Andrew Ortenberg. This is Let's Bet It. Guys, no sports today. No live
Hmm.
sports. So,
Ugh.
what are
Hurts to
we
hear
what are
that.
we doing? Do we have we gonna hang out with our family? What are we doing today? What's going what's
Binge
going on?
Netflix, right? Like I'm gonna be playing with my new pooch. He's sleeping on the couch right now, being all cute and fluffy. But it is. I mean, I'll be honest. This is and then also tomorrow, only a few. We get NFL, which is nice, and we get one college football bowl game, but still no NHL. We do get NBA tomorrow, though. Actually, tomorrow's a pretty good day, but today,
We got some
slim
NFL too. We
pickings.
got NFL too tomorrow.
That's true. That's true. Slim pickings today, though. You got to spend time with your family, I guess, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I guess. I
Look,
guess.
you
That
don't
sound too
have to.
excited
I
about
might
it.
I might find
I'm
my
kidding.
way to the
I'm
driving range. You don't have to. So we'll see what happens today. But yeah, not a lot to touch on to with today, but we're gonna definitely dive into tomorrow and the rest of the weekend throughout this show. So of course, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We're open to talk about pretty much anything. Maybe you got some Christmas questions, last minute shopping. I mean, maybe you need some advice, whatever you want to talk about. We'll get to it. But make sure before we start the show, you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel and download the app. It's available on the Apple Store and in Google Play. On today's show, like I said, we're going to dive into NFL action on Saturday, NFL action on Sunday. We're going to talk Georgia State, Ball State, some Camellia Bowl, and then we're going to finish things off with our play of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. Let's get right to it, guys. Browns, Packers. The Browns catching 7.5 points. And it sounds like they'll be getting some of their offensive weapons back, most notably Baker Mayfield, which is obviously good news for the Browns. It's a really, really short week for them. So to get some healthy, rested bodies back would definitely be a good thing. Jared, I'll start with you. Which side are you on in this one?
Yeah, so this is an interesting matchup. You do get the Monday to Saturday. You're right. Really short week for Cleveland, and I think they're still pretty banged up. Offensively, they're getting a little healthy. The center, though, J.C. Treader, he announced on social media earlier this week that he tested positive. I'm calling it the Big C now. I heard one of my podcasts that I listened to. Someone called it the Big C. So I'm going to call it that. So J.C. Treader out. Jadeveon Clowney also on the Big C list. Keep an eye on his status this week. Malik McDowell, their starting defensive tackle, out. Malik Jackson, their other starting defensive tackle, questionable. Myles Garrett, you saw it at the end of that game on Monday night. He had a hitch in the giddy up with that groin injury. He's questionable as well. That's the entire starting defensive line for the Cleveland Browns. And oh, by the way, you're facing a Packers offense that has been electric not only through the air, but also very efficient on the ground. Dillon Jones, a really good 1-2 punch. I think it's going to be tough for this Browns defense to slow down the Packers offense. On the other side, I think the Browns are going to try to play keep away in this game. And even though they're a little bit banged up, we'll see what the left tackle Jedrick Wills' status is. We'll see what Kareem Hunt's status is. But I still think Baker Mayfield being back, they're going to rely on the run and then try to get Baker in play action. I still think the Packers win this game. I think they're going to put up a pretty decent number on offense. And I think this is an ideal teaser leg. I've got some other teaser spots as well that I want to talk about this week, but I'm not going to give away the full money. I'll make you go to Pickswise.com to read about the rest of my teaser legs. I've got a few on my best bets column this week, but I think the Packers win this game. Do they cover the spread? Maybe, but I definitely think they win the game.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking more about the Packers as a teaser like later on in the show. But Ao, I want to go to you because I think we're kind of on the same side when we're looking at this over potentially. I mean, I'm looking at this Packers defense that I thought was actually playing pretty well for a couple of weeks. Just gave up 30 to the Ravens without Lamar Jackson, 30 to the Bears, 28 to the Rams, and 34 to the Vikings. So what are you thinking when you're looking at the total?
Yeah, I definitely lean towards the over. I'm a little mad at myself that I missed the best in the number. I think there's a little uncertainty there. I think, what is it, 46 now? I think you could have got 44 and a half, even 44 for a brief second. So I'm bummed that I missed the number. I still want to take it for a lot of the reasons Jared just mentioned. I mean, all those defensive. I think the only way the Browns were going to stop the Packers here was if they got a lot of pressure. The Packers O line has been less than 100%. But I mean, the Browns pass rushers just all dropped like flies last week. Jared even forgot Tack McKinley as well, tore his
Yeah,
Achilles,
you're
even like a
right.
depth piece.
100%.
So it's like everybody's out except for Myles Garrett on an injured groin who's going to try and play through it. So I don't see them getting a ton of pressure. So I see the Packers pretty much moving the ball at will. And I think the Browns should have some success on offense too. You really can run on the Packers. They're bottom third of the league easily in like defensive rush efficiency. Obviously, that's what the Browns want to do. The one thing that would concern me about the over is if the Browns have some like 8, 9 minute drives that like end in three, and then you're
Yeah.
really up against it to get going. But overall, I do think both offenses will have success, and I do think both defenses are a bit overrated. The Packers, I mean, they had those few weeks where they were like playing lights out. That always kind of felt like something that was not going to continue. The Browns, I think the Browns have played some really weak offenses lately. They've got a struggling Raiders offense last week. The Ravens, who were struggling on offense with Lamar the 2 weeks before that. Right before that, they played the Lions in a weather game. The last time they played a competent offense was the Patriots. They gave up 45. A couple of the tougher offenses they played before that, the Cardinals and the Chargers, they gave up 37 and 47. So I don't think this Browns defense is very good, and I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to put up those kind of numbers. So yeah, I definitely lean to the over. I haven't bet it yet, but I probably will.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like it.
leaning with you as well. Jarvis Landry, another guy that will be back for the Browns. So, I mean, just
That's
getting
big.
those
Yeah.
offensive weapons back going to be big for Browns offense that has been pretty brutal lately. Let's move on to the other Saturday game. This is one that is pretty intriguing to me. Probably the most intriguing game of the entire weekend for me. We got the Colts on the road in Arizona facing a Cardinals team. The Cardinals 1.5 point favorites at home. So you're giving me a 1.5 with a red hot Colts team going up against a Cardinals team that's been sliding. They're desperate. They need a win, but it just kind of seems too good to be true. It smells funny to me, Jared. Is Vegas pretty much begging you to take that 1.5 point with the Colts? And I feel like it's a trap. What do you think when you're looking at that?
Yeah, definitely. The market is telling you that Indy is a favorite on a neutral field here. Which I think if you said that a few weeks ago, you'd be really shocked to hear that. Last week, this line was 4.5. About a month or two ago, this line was 6.5. So you're kind of at that buy low territory here for Arizona. And when you look at this game, just based off of what we saw last week, you're crazy to take Arizona, right? I mean, they looked absolutely lifeless against the Lions. Kyler Murray came out after the game, said they weren't prepared, which at this stage of the season with an MVP quarterback in his third year, with a third-year head coach, to say you're not prepared for a game against the Detroit Lions is not something you want to hear. On the other side, the Colts looked fantastic last week against the Patriots. They won the game, but let's look a little deeper. Carson Wentz completed 6 passes. They blocked the punt for a touchdown. At the end of the game, it was hold on for dear life because here comes New England. And as much as I think Indy is playing better right now, I think you have to ignore what we saw last week. It's a 1-week season. I think Arizona, to me, is the buy low and Indy is the sell high. So I think this is a great spot to get in on the card. I don't love it. It's stinky, as you said. It's trappish, all those cliches we like to use. But I do think Kyler Murray will play better. I do think they'll have a better call of the game. We'll see if Vance Joseph's defense can shut down Jonathan Taylor. I think you're going to see a lot of Nyheim Hines in this game too. Taylor's workload's been getting up there. I heard some rumblings this week that Hines, he scored a touchdown last week. I could see him starting to get more in the mix. We'll see if the Cardinals defense, which has been maligned over the last few weeks, can slow Indy down. But I have to buy low when I can with an elite quarterback and an elite offense at home in prime time. So I'm going to nibble here. I'm going to hold my nose, and I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Hey, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have anything on this game. I get it. Yeah, man, it's tough. I'm excited to see it. Yeah, I have an affection for the Colts. I like the Colts, so I'd like to see them make a playoff run. I'd like to see them in the playoffs. Like
Have
Jared
you guys
said,
been watching that Colts the in-season Hard Knocks on HBO? I thought I'd be really into that. I haven't heard much of that. Have you guys been watching?
I haven't either.
Yeah, I haven't heard any buzz about it
I haven't heard
whatsoever.
anybody
I
talk
haven't been
about
watching it.
One
I've seen like the occasional clip.
One thing that's interesting for me in this one, because you're talking about Jonathan Taylor, I'm looking at rushing props. First of all, his total's 102 on
So
FanDuel
high.
right now. I mean, but they just had some guy named Craig Reynolds for the Lions rush for 112 on him. So when you're looking at that, like, are you going to go over 102? I mean, Jonathan, I think he's gone over that for five out of 6 games, I believe is what it is. Too high?
It's too high for me. I think
Yeah.
I mean, listen, well, first of all, if what I'm hearing is true, and it is going to be not a lot more, but a little more of Nyheim Hines, because again, the Colts have higher. I think even if they lose this game, I think the Colts are still going to make the playoffs. And I think overall, they need Jonathan Taylor to be fresh, and he has been a workhorse. And again, I'm not saying he's going to, sit on the sidelines for the whole game, but if his carry load decreases by, let's say, 10%, instead of 25 carries or 20 carries, he gets 18 or 17 carries. To me, the prop number on the Colts, including the spread number, it's a sell high. Their numbers have been increased the entire season, and now they're at that point where you can't really go over or bet the Colts. I think the value is certainly to the under and on the other side.
Let's talk Sunday, because we have some plays that we want to get into for Sunday slate as well. I'm going to start with mine. I'm looking at that Chiefs-Steelers game and the total, which is at 45 right now. And I'm leaning towards that under right now. I wanted to take the 8.5 points with the Steelers, but I just can't bring myself to do that just yet. But the under seems like a good play to me. Because when you look, it's kind of like waiting on COVID news, though, right? Because we don't know if Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce are going to be able to go. Obviously, if they're able to go, that's going to be a different number, both with the total and with the spread. But I'm not sure what their situation is, and I'm just not necessarily sold on this Pittsburgh offense that has been pretty bad, especially in first halves this year. And I'm not banking on them to be able to pick it up on the road. They win ugly. They win in low-scoring games. They win with defense. And I think Patrick Mahomes, if he doesn't have his full arsenal, especially with two big pieces of that Chiefs offense in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, we could see this being a really low-scoring game, because I think they're going to have to rely more on the run game and against a Pittsburgh defense that is pretty susceptible to the run. I mean, the teams run all over the Steelers, which is not typical in years past. So I could see this being a low-scoring game. What do you guys think about that?
Hey, I don't have anything here. You're the totals guru.
Yeah, you're the totals.
Yeah,
I want to hear what AO has to say.
Yeah, I don't have anything on the game myself, but I think your reasoning makes a lot of sense. I don't think the Steelers are going to go on the road and score. I mean, the Steelers offense last week, they were lucky to score 19. I think they had 160. I think they had 168 yards of total offense.
They won a football game with 168 yards.
Their best offensive play is literally like a jet sweep with Claypool. Yeah. That's their best offensive play.
Man, Steelers piss me off, man. They catch a lot of breaks. They catch a lot of freaking breaks.
They do. All right, so
here we go.
Sunday?
Go ahead, AO. What do you got?
I don't know where to start. I guess, let me think. All right, I don't want to do the play of the day now. I like the Jaguars, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh.
Yeah, I just saw, it's funny, I just actually got a notification on my phone. I guess Josh Allen, not Bills, Josh Allen, yes. Jaguars, Josh Allen has COVID, which sucks for this pick. That being said, I was skeptical last week. Everyone was pounding the Jags last week, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be I think if there was going to be a post-Urban Meyer Jags bump, it's going to come this week, not last week. Last week, he got fired in the middle of the week. They're already preparing for the Texans. That was just kind of like a chaotic week. Now, with Darrell Bevell, the intern coach, having a full week, everything's him. I think if they were going to come out with a home run effort, it would be here. It's the perfect spot. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good by any means, but he has not looked nearly as lost as Zach Wilson has. I think that's a big deal. Last week, obviously, I had the Jets money line as part of the mega parlay, so I was rooting for them over the Dolphins. I was keeping an eye on that game. They're keeping it close the whole way, not because they were playing well. It's Tua threw a pick six, because a lot of things had to bounce their way for the Jets to put up 24 points in that game. And now the Jets have been kind of ravaged by COVID. Nobody's really talking about it. Everybody's talking about all the other COVID outbreaks because they affect star players. Nobody seems to care when it's the Jets. But they've got 15 guys on the COVID list, including really, obviously, Robert Saleh, the head coach. Their tight ends coach is going to be coaching the game. He seems kind of incompetent. They got a bunch of key guys out. Elijah Vera Tucker, who started every single game of guard for them, the first-round pick, he's out. John Franklin Myers, huge part of their defensive line, who just got a big contract extension because he's been having a breakout season. He's out. A lot of guys. There's a lot of contributors on both sides. Again, it's no household names because it's the Jets, so nobody's really talking about all these star players on COVID. But a lot of their contributors are on the COVID list. It just feels like the perfect week for the Jags for me. I think the Jags defense has actually been playing quietly pretty well. The offense just hasn't been able to get anything going. And this should be the one week where I think they finally should get something going against a terrible Jets defense that is now going to be missing their head coach and defensive mind, and a decent amount of their contributors on defense too. So it just feels like the perfect spot for Jacksonville.
You just sold me on the Jags. I think I'm sold on the Jags.
It's a good teaser spot too, because the Jets are laying 1 at DraftKings, and you get them up to 7.
Right.
That's a good. The Jets beating anybody by 2 scores. So I was looking at the EPA list this morning, not the Environmental Protection Agency, the expected points added list of quarterbacks. Sometimes we do get confused with those two acronyms. But would this surprise you? I don't know, Alex. I'll ask you first. Does it surprise you that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, of all the starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now, 31st and 32nd in the NFL in EPA this year? I mean, they're the 2 worst QBs in the league. I think it's fair to say.
Doesn't surprise me. It hurts me, though, as someone who owns a couple Trevor Lawrence NFTs and has a Trevor Lawrence autographed rookie card that I was, feeling pretty good about last spring. So I need Trevor to step it up a little bit. So for personal reasons, thank you for bringing that up, Jared. I really appreciate it.
You got it, bud. Anything. I'll make you feel a little better.
That's one of
Wilson's 32nd. And it's not even close.
So he's not the worst. He's not the worst.
Like I said,
there's a big gap between Lawrence at 31st and Wilson at 32nd. Wilson is, for lack of a better word, the worst quarterback in the league according to the analytics.
Yeah, I mean that's not surprising. It's not surprising at all. Like I said, yeah, exactly. Lawrence has looked lost, but Zach Wilson has looked lost.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's every single drop back. It's like Wilson is just looks like he doesn't have any idea what he's looking at. I mean, he's going to take a handful of bad sacks per game, seemingly every single game, and deliver a handful of inaccurate throws and at least a couple of interceptions.
And he's also holding the ball the longest of any quarterback, which,
he took 6 last week. I want to say he took 6 last week.
Yeah, like his time to throw or like time in the pocket, I forget how the exact stat is worded. It's the longest in the league, meaning 2 things. A, he's really having trouble getting through his progressions and making the right decision. And B, the Jets receivers just aren't getting open. And those 2 things are not good, a combination. When you have a quarterback that's a rookie that is struggling to make decisions and you have a receiving core without Elijah Moore, without Corey Davis, that is really struggling to get open. The Jets offense, very fortunate to score 24 last week. They really
I want to ask you guys one question kind of about this because I think it's important to note this. Do you think that has more to do with maybe it's the talent of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, and maybe they were misjudged, or do you think that they're just going to they're just in 2 of the most dysfunctional franchises in sports, and Mac Jones maybe he's in the best situation. Do you think it has more to do with situation than talent? Because I'm looking even at a guy like Justin Fields. We've seen flashes of what Justin Fields could be, especially when Matt Nagy's not coaching. But, it just seems like they are just in bad spots. So I don't know how they get better in their respective markets that they're in right now.
Yeah. Tough. I would say it's more of the latter, meaning more of the scheme. But I'll be honest, I think the Jets got the Wilson pick wrong. Like I don't care what the upside was. The floor was too low on him, and the Jets needed more of a steady hand at quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence, the jury's out still, and I think because of the situation in Jacksonville, it was really bad. But to me, Wilson just hasn't been
as a Jets fan, who did you want?
No positive. There hasn't been any positive, right? Right, Andrew? Like I haven't seen any steps forward with Zach Wilson, where Lawrence has shown glimpses at times that he can make.
He's been hurt, right?
Wilson's been hurt.
He was.
He was hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's what I was going to say, was that I think it's always a combination of both the talent and the situation, but I think that with Wilson, the situation is definitely a lot more alarming because Lawrence has at least had those flashes. Justin Fields has had plenty of flashes. And Justin Fields aren't even flashes. He's playing kind of genuinely well. And Zach Wilson, it's like maybe he made like a throw or 2 in like the Titans game or something. Like, it's like you're really grasping at straws if you're trying to find things to praise Zach Wilson for. It's been like consistently bad from start to finish.
Frankly, it's been regression.
You're like, wow.
And maybe the injury kind of stunted his growth a little bit, but that's been the most alarming thing with a rookie quarterback. Week 1, you want to see a difference between week 1 and week 17 this year, 18. But I haven't seen any difference between week 1 and now week 16. That, Alex, I would say is very alarming.
Like Trevor Lawrence has at least had a couple of good games, and his coaching situation was also much worse. It's like Trevor Lawrence.
He had the worst coaching situation in the league. Period.
In the league, and some people are saying of all time, like with this Urban Meyer thing, may have been literally the biggest disaster, and there have been some bigger, at least in recent history.
I mean, he's coached
100%.
And
John
then
John
meanwhile,
around
the Jets
his
have backups
bachelor
coming
party
in.
activities. I mean, you can't trust the guy. I
Exactly.
mean, come on.
Yeah.
So,
The
all
Jags
right,
haven't had if Trevor Lawrence got injured and then his backup came in and started playing super well, like has kind of happened with the Jets on multiple occasions
Yeah.
this year, that'd be a lot worse too. That's the other damning indictment of Wilson is if it's just the scheme and it's just the coaches, then why did Josh Johnson look pretty good? Why did Mike White even have some moments?
Yeah.
yeah. Ayo, you got any more picks before we move on to college?
I do, yeah. I like I like. Sorry, what was I gonna say? Gotta remember my picks here. It's early. I like the Broncos actually a lot this week too. It's kind of two ugly teams. I like the Jags. I like the Broncos a lot. I think this is again the perfect spot for the Broncos. I think the Raiders are kind of. It's now the time to fade them, coming off their big, squeaked out 2-point last second field goal win over Nick Mullins and the Browns, and
Super
they're
short
missing
week.
everybody. Short week for them as well. I just think I don't think it's much of a downgrade from Teddy Bridgewater to Drew Lock. If anything, I'm not a big Drew Lock guy, but I think if anything, it could spark the team a little bit. I mean, and again, like it can't really be much worse than the offense has been recently. He did come right in and have a nice touchdown drive against the Bengals. Then he made a couple of Drew
Yeah.
Lock plays. But regardless, Broncos' run game's actually not bad. With Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, teams can run over the Raiders. You got a little revenge after the Raiders clowned the Broncos in their building earlier this year. Meanwhile, Denver's defense is now playing the best it has all season. They only gave up 15 points to Joe Burrow and the Bengals last week. The Broncos defense is kind of like playing really well week in, week out the past month or so of the season. So I think they're going to have a lot of success against the Raiders offense that has really, really, really struggled since the bye week. The Raiders offense has no weapons to speak of. Their O-line's a mess. The Broncos front is playing really well now. Yeah, it just feels like the right spot for the Broncos this week.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's move on. We were supposed to have the Hawaii Bowl today. Not gonna get that.
I did have one last one I wanted to throw out there actually. If I
Oh,
could
yeah, go
before
ahead.
you have to play the days. Chargers -10. Don't always love laying spreads this big with teams, especially on the road. I just don't see how this one's really close at all. I mean, I'm a big Brandon Cooks guy, and the Texans are now going to be without Brandon Cooks. He's kind of been like the end. The times the Texans' offense or passing game has looked competent, it's been because Brandon Cooks is having a big game. Outside of him, last week against the Jags, I think Brandon Cooks had 100-something yards, 2 touchdowns. It was the reason why they beat the Jags. He took that screen pass, 60-something. He's out now. It's kind of been like the one guy Davis Mills can hit. And without Cooks, I just don't see them keeping up with Justin Herbert. I mean, obviously the Chargers COVID stuff sucks if they're going to be without Eckler, without Bosa.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just really don't
And
think it
Lindsley,
matters
the
here.
center too. But
Yeah,
but the entire
sure.
starting offensive line is out for the Texans, basically. So
Yeah, and in the dome, I think
and their
Herbert is just going to light them up. I think he's
I
just
agree.
going to light them up.
I hope so. All right, now let's move on. We got some Camellia Bowl action. Let's talk about the Camellia Bowl, Jared. We got Georgia State laying 5.5 points against Ball State. Which side are you on with this one? You siding with the Panthers or are you going with the Cardinals?
Yeah, so again, motivation and location. Those are the two keys. We throw out a lot of the trends, a lot of the stats and the records and what these teams did prior during the regular season. But I will say this, the Georgia State did play a really tough schedule. They're a battle-tested team. They went 1-5 against the following teams: UNC, Auburn, Army, App State, Louisiana Lafayette, Coastal. Those are all bowl teams. Those are all, conference champion type of teams. Maybe not Auburn and UNC, but certainly the latter four. And I think when you look at this Georgia State team, they're playing 150 miles away. This game's in Montgomery, Alabama, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Atlanta. You got Ball State on Christmas Day coming all the way down from Muncie, Indiana to play a bowl game at I think it's called the Crampton Bowl is where this game's going to be played. So I'm not saying Ball State won't be up for this game. I'm sure they'll be slightly motivated, but I have a feeling Georgia State will be more motivated. And when you look at Ball State, they play in a conference in the MAC. And I know I just said don't look at trends and stats, but there is one trend that I do hold a little weight to in bowl season, and that's how the conferences do as a whole. Because I think it kind of speaks to if your conference is stronger or weaker than maybe as expected, as handicapped. And I think the MAC, which is 1-4 straight up in bowl games, they finally got their first win yesterday. And that's because North Texas was without their two best players on offense, their running back, and on defense, their corner. And Miami of Ohio was able to kind of move it up and down the field, and they weren't really tested on the defensive side. So the MAC finally got their first bowl win, but overall the MAC's been very poor. Meanwhile, for Georgia State, Cornelius Brown was the quarterback earlier in the year. They made a switch midseason to Darren Granger. Since that switch, They finished the season 6-1. Granger took care of the football, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick. Georgia State doesn't throw it a ton. They're more of a running offense. Ball State's a very average team on both sides of the ball. Nothing really stands out for me at all about Ball State except for the fact that their senior quarterback, Drew Plitt, is going to be playing in his final game, which is not a reason to bet on a team. I think this is a great spot for Georgia State. Again, motivation, location, and conference trends. I think the MAC is a fade in bowl games, so I'm going to go to the well one more time and back the Panthers on Christmas Day.
I'm with you. So how does that make you feel, given how bowl season's gone with me? How does that make you feel that we're on the same side?
Doesn't matter at all. you're due, right? That's what
I got to get one, right? I got to get one.
You're gonna get one.
I actually like the
fun.
number 2 because it's under 6, under a touchdown. So you're laying 5.5 points here. You kind of touched on it a little bit. Ball State allowing teams to rush for over 170 yards per game, and Georgia State wants to run the football. That's what they do. They're, I think, averaging regular season average over 220 yards per game. So they're going to try to run the football, and it seems like they're going to be able to run the football against Ball State. Defense is not that great, so I'm also leaning towards the over in this one. But again, that Ball State offense has just been pretty inconsistent throughout the year. So I feel more comfortable probably with the side and laying those 5.5 points.
Ayo, I know you're not into these college bowl games as much, but I trust your brain. Have you seen anything overarching that maybe leads you to trust either one specific side, total, situation going forward? Is now over the next week or so, we're really going to get into the meat of college bowl season.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start taking some more nibbles for sure when we get into the meat of it. Here's the NFL ones down as well. There's not a ton that I have right now. I will say I noticed one of the things I do check it out at the site, Daily Public Money Update. It's a good resource if you're trying to get a sense of where the heavy public sides are, and you can notice some interesting things like for example, the other day, I think it was this Florida UCF total. The over was getting pounded by the public. You can see it's getting 85% of the bet tickets at DraftKings, but only like 50% of the handle was on the over, which means that there have been some very large volume bets on the under. That game was getting pounded, I think over 55 or something, ended up falling 46. And we saw that again, the over was getting pounded in that North Texas, Miami, Ohio game that you mentioned, and that came in well under too. So I'll be obviously the early bowl games were pretty high scoring. So I'll be very curious, just kind of monitor that and see where it goes. If these unders can keep this momentum going, or if the overs become storming back.
It's a great point, because what you see is the overs start 9-2. Everybody starts tweeting about how the overs are 9-2, and then everyone starts betting the overs in games that really aren't warranted to bet the over, just because they're blindly betting the over.
Funny how that works.
And then all of a sudden the unders start hitting. I mean, to me, that is the definition of the buy low, sell high approach that I like to take, the contrarian style approach, where you see the public on one side and the money's kind of drifting in the other direction. And I think that's tremendous advice for sure.
Jared, I got a question for you actually, because we're navigating so much with bowl season. We're talking motivation, we're talking location, we're talking transfer portal, opt-in, opt-out, coaches moving. Now we're dealing with COVID as well, and those can be last-second changes that have big impacts on games. Just how are you navigating all of this, and what is your approach when you're looking at these bowl games and all of those factors?
Great advice. I think you kind of go against the line movement, as crazy as that sounds. And I'm not saying always go against the line movement, but if there's a major opt-out and it's not a quarterback, maybe it's a running back. For example, that North Texas Miami Ohio game yesterday, the running back, so you saw a lot of the line move. First of all, the early line movement was towards North Texas, and then all of a sudden the line started moving towards Miami of Ohio. Well, the North Texas line movement cleared obviously false. I think the line opened 4, North Texas +4, and it closed right around 2 or 1.
Got to 1.5 at one point.
Yeah, and that was not a good bet, because Miami of Ohio won by 2 touchdowns. So I think the prudent approach is just to wait as long as possible, see where the market settles, and then the value tends to be the market moves too much, and then you have to hold your nose sometimes and bet on the side that the market's moving against. But overall, I definitely think there is value on the other side if you're patient, and that's the prudent approach. Be patient, let the market settle, and then try to get a better number of value play on the other side where the market's moving against.
So to summarize, fade the news.
Fade the news and be patient. Don't, if you see something happen, don't try to, I used to do it too. I see a piece of news break and, oh my God, I got to get on this line right now because it's about to move. that isn't always the best approach. I think the best approach is to let the market settle, don't make a bet right away, and then kind of see where the chips fall.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, before we wrap things up and get to our plays of the day, I'm looking at the chat right now. We got a question here, actually, from Mr. Briggs. I'll throw this out to whoever wants to take a nibble at it. How about the Giants outright, betting them against the Eagles? So Giants, right now, what are they, catching 10 points?
Yeah, I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know.
super short week for the Eagles. Was
Fromm
it
or
5
Mike
days?
Glennon?
Yeah, I always look for any excuse to back the Giants on the money line, but only when my guy Danny Dimes is out there.
Yeah, he's not out there.
If this game was at home, like maybe I could see it happening if this was the first meeting between them. But like this is the type of game where it's like you're starting Jake Fromm. It's like he's definitely better than. I mean, you can't be much worse than Glennon. It's like maybe he has some theoretical upside just because we don't know what he looks like. And like this maybe would be the kind of game you could catch the Eagles slipping if this was either a game that didn't mean that much to the Eagles or it was, or it was in New York. But I mean, when you have the Eagles playing for their playoff lives, and remember the Giants beat them just a few weeks ago.
We were at that game.
Got the revenge spot for the Eagles. Yeah, we were at that game. The Eagles have had this one circled for sure. They're not going to get caught sleeping here by Jake Fromm. And Mr. Briggs, I will say the one thing that especially dissuaded me of having much interest in the Giants here is that I went back and Giants fans, I feel sorry for them. They're kind of, again, it feels like they're grasping at straws here for things to get excited about because everybody's kind of like, oh my God, Jake Fromm moved the ball in their last drive when he finally came in against the Cowboys. I went back and watched every drop back Jake Fromm did. He moved the ball between the 20s, down 2 scores with 3 minutes left, and the Cowboys are playing prevent. Like the completions that he made were a couple of guys who were just wide open off really soft coverages, and then he hit Kenny Golladay on a deep ball, which he just kind of like chucked up there. It was a classic 50-50 ball. Easily could have been intercepted, and we're talking about it. He took like 2 sacks. He was holding the ball too long. I did not, and it was one drive of garbage time, and you have Giants fans on Twitter being like, "Oh my God, Jake Fromm." I'm like,
they're just trying to get excited about something, Andrew. It's this year.
I mean, just rain on their parade, man. Let
I
me be excited
empathize.
about Jake Fromm.
You're 100% right, though. Glennon is, what you're getting with Glennon. They should have started Fromm to begin with because then we would have had more of a handicap heading into this week, and we don't. And that makes this a very tough bet. I would lay away. I would stay away. And I think the Eagles win the game. They're not going to lose twice to the Giants this year.
No,
they're not going to lose twice to the Giants.
All right, let's get to our plays of the day, gentlemen. Obviously, no live sports today. So I guess we're looking at Saturday or Sunday plays. So what do you guys got?
Andrew, you want to go first?
Sure. It's the under in Washington, Dallas. I was on the under in the first meeting between Washington and Dallas, and it cashed, albeit narrowly, because in that game it was 48.5, 47. It closed 47.5. The number it landed 47, but it only got close to going over because there was 2 defensive touchdowns. It was a very, very slow, poor offensive game. I think Dak Prescott averaged 5.4 yards per attempt with 2 interceptions. I think the Washington quarterbacks averaged 5.1 yards per attempt. Second meeting in just a few weeks, division rivalry games. Washington needs this game like blood if they're going to have any chance of winning. Obviously, Taylor Heineke just got upgraded from the COVID list, but a couple of their key guys on defense did as well. And obviously, Heineke played in that first meeting as well, where he got nothing going for 3 quarters before getting hurt. Dak, I think the story here, though, is that the Cowboys, you never thought you'd say this at the beginning of the season. The Cowboys' offense has been really bad, and the defense has been carrying them for weeks now. Like the Cowboys' defense has been like most efficient in the league. Their offense has been doing nothing. Like last week, again, Dak looked far from impressive against the Giants. He was pretty bad against the Cowboys a couple weeks before. He doesn't look.
Why do you think that is, Jared? Why do you think the Cowboys' offense has looked so bad? It's tough to kind of pinpoint what's been going on with them.
Inconsistencies, running game. I think we lost AO there. That's a tough freeze frame for him too.
You hate to get frozen like that.
That's a tough freeze frame. So I just looked this up. I had the stats up while he was talking. Since week 10, so about 2 months. Dallas has the number one defense in the league according to EPA. And again, if you ask the analytics people, EPA is the metric that they go to. And to me, EPA is a very strong metric, and Dallas is as strong as it gets. You can make a case to say they have in the NFC the best defense in the conference. I think in the AFC, it's Buffalo and New England. But I think in the NFC, I think it's fair to say that the Cowboys have the best defense in that conference, which is going to make them a very interesting handicap come playoff time. And I think that's a really good piece of a little nugget there to throw on top, a cherry on top of Andrew's handicap. All right, I'll get to my play of the day. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think Arizona's in a good buy low spot. I do not like what I saw last week. Obviously, any person with eyes that knows the game of football in any degree is not going to like what they saw against the Lions. And I expect, Cliff Kingsbury to, figure things out this week and play a lot better. And I expect Kyler Murray to hopefully stay within the offense. A little too much backyard football for Kyler of late. The defense for Arizona concerns me, but their EPA numbers are still good since week 10, and overall they're even better. And again, I like to weight the EPA numbers when I look at them because I just try to take into account how a team's playing recently and not just the entire full course of the season. But Arizona's still relatively decent. Their numbers against the run aren't as good, and that's going to be an issue. We'll see what Vance Joseph schemes up. We'll see if Nyheim Hines is going to spell Jonathan Taylor a little bit. I would look at Nyheim Hines props, actually. I really would tomorrow. But I'm going to lay it with a point, lay a point with the Cardinals and just hope that it's a buy low spot and a sell high spot for Indy, and we can get a little bit of love back into Arizona. Fun game, though. Should be a really good game.
Most intriguing game of the weekend for me. Most intriguing
absolutely.
game of the weekend for me. All right, I'm looking at our chat right now, and our producer Justin is saying that AO's coming back.
Hey!
Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what the hell happened. My browser just kicked me out of here.
It happens.
Love
You
when
had
that
an unfortunate freeze frame. You were like,
Oh, no way. No.
Yeah, it's all right. Though.
Don't put that one on the headshot reel
Can't
for
win 'em
your.
Do you want to finish up your reasoning for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got out most of it. Just that I think again, it's wise to continue betting these things where the market is quite not at reality. Like I've been betting these Cowboys unders the past few weeks. Like the Cowboys offense is just not playing well, and I think if you asked anybody random on the street, they would be under the perception that Dak and the Cowboys offense are still playing well because they've been winning games, but it has been the defense carrying them. I think that's going to continue here.
All right, Jared gave his pick already. Mine is a teaser. I'm going with a Packers-Ravens teaser. I'm getting the Packers down to 1.5, and I'm getting the Ravens up to 9. Pretty self-explanatory. I think the Packers, they're gonna win the game. They're gonna beat the Browns. I don't know if I love laying the 7.5 points, so I'm getting it through those key numbers, getting it through 3, so I love that. And then I look at the Ravens, and I think that they're being undervalued. As weird as that sounds here. Not sure about Lamar Jackson, but everything is telling you that he's not going to be able to go. He hasn't practiced all week so far. Tyler Huntley, not a big downgrade from Lamar. He looked pretty good running the offense against that Packers defense last week, I should say. And this Bengals defense, I'm not really sold on them yet. I think that, division rival, it's really tough to beat teams twice in the division. The Ravens kind of, got their butts handed to them in the first matchup. So I think there's no question they're going to be up for this game and be ready to roll. So I'm getting that again through 7, getting 9 points with the Ravens. I'm going to take that because I think I can see this Ravens offense being capable of kind of what they did last week, keeping Jamar Chase and keeping Joe Burrow off the field, killing clock, and just putting together long drives that result in points. Whether it's touchdown or field goal, doesn't matter. I just need points. So I'm gonna get the Ravens. I'm gonna get the Packers in the teaser spot.
Love it. I think it's a great teaser leg. It's a low total game. You're right. We've seen it with the Ravens and the Browns. Those two teams split that weird back-to-back, fluky schedule thing that they had. And I absolutely think the scheme that Cincinnati threw at the Ravens in their last game, John Harbaugh is going to be prepared for that, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So I think this game stays close. Good teaser.
Yeah. All right, well, let me look at one last quick time at the chat. Doesn't look like we have any questions in there. Listen, it's Christmas Eve, boys. So let's just get out of here. Let's wrap this thing up. Enjoy the time with your family, friends, if you're able to do that. Merry Christmas to everybody that is watching. Merry Christmas to you, gentlemen, as well. For Andrew and for Jared, that'll do it. We're no show tomorrow. We get a holiday, so we'll be back on Sunday, 10 a.m. Good luck with your bets this weekend.